I would like to kindly ask you, if you do not mind, to please share your thoughts and provide your comments on the interview that appeared and was published quite recently. It was published by Insider, a Russian insider. Well, many probably know. This is a media outlet run by Roman Dobrokhotov, a well-known Russian political emigre. They periodically publish the results of various high-profile investigations, including they actively cooperate and collaborate with other investigative groups, with various journalists, and with well-known investigators such as Christo Grozev. In fact, they launched this project together in partnership with Christo Grozev. So they interviewed a rather intriguing individual who was an officer in the FSB's so-called Second Service. His name is Alexander Fedotov, and he tells his story. He has already left the FSB, as I understand it, and now lives in exile in Cyprus, apparently expecting all sorts of serious troubles. And so he gave a detailed account of what the Second Service actually is. We learned a lot of interesting things. For example, I didn't know that, as it turns out, they are actually based not on Lubyanka nor in the FSB building, but somewhere on Vernadsky Avenue in some high rise, and many other things as well. You've read it, right?
You know, this is one of the most interesting interviews I've ever read on current issues regarding the Russian special services. The high-rise building is the place I told you about as well, where the ATPGU service used to be based. It was located in that very building.
Intelligence from the territory, right?
Right on Vernadsky Avenue, but it's closer to the university. So from the Universitet metro station, if you go southwest towards MGMO.
There's a huge tower standing there.
There are 3 or 4 high-rise towers there. So in one of them, though, honestly, I've never actually been there, but I knew that our RT was located there. And apparently that building was transferred to the FSB, not to the Foreign Intelligence Service. And probably most likely they removed AT from there, or maybe it's still there to this day. What surprised me wasn't just that, not what they said. There was nothing secret about it for me. It was that he named the exact address. That is, he specified exactly which address, which building. Because even I got confused. I had never been there, but I would get mixed up about which one it was. Because once I was driving by in a Volga with a friend of mine who worked there, and he showed me those buildings, but that was just once and just passing by. So I didn't really remember well who was in the second tower, who was in the third tower. I don't recall. I just knew that they were based there. I remember the American Department of RT was based there, which monitored Americans from an intelligence gathering perspective. I mean, the structure itself. He told me about specific people, so there was a lot of interesting inside information. And, you know, I was listening to someone here, I can't remember who compared him. Do you remember the story when there was an attack on Volkov and there was some agent, or maybe not an agent, something like that, FSB, some really shady guy who was cooperating with the opposition? I don't remember from which side, but he was really shady, a shady guy. And so they compared this person to that shady guy, saying that they were somehow similar. But that's absolutely like night and day. I mean, it's absolutely like night and day. Thank you.
They're not similar at all, right? Of course.
I mean, he's a career senior FSB officer who knows what he's talking about, who provides a lot of material, interesting material for everyone interested in Russian intelligence services. I remember, quickly skimmed through that interview, but even from what I saw, it's immediately clear. When there's good material, when it's real, substantial material, you can spot it right away. Do you have it? This is definitely material you need to read carefully. You need to reread it because there's a lot of specifics. And in principle, this investigative organization has consistently proven to be very serious, and their publications are interesting. Well, this just proves once again that it's very interesting. It's worth checking out. And that's why I recommend everyone from my side to reread this interview, to watch it, because there is something. They have a video. They've also done some things with it.
Yes, exactly. But in any case, there are a lot of such things there, including very human details. A very vivid portrait of General Sedov, who headed that very same Second Service. A man who neither offers a greeting nor bids farewell, who on a special phone line, a direct line to the chief, simply talks to his subordinates. All his subordinates possess this trait, and he says, "This is Sedov, no hello, no goodbye." He yells, swears, and at the same time apparently is involved in various business schemes, up to the point that employees are given bonuses and then they voluntarily, these bonuses are given to some fund, and from this fund they make a luxurious renovation in the boss's office. Well, or, I really like the story about how one of Sedov's deputies, a general of the army, by the way, it's emphasized that no one has risen through the ranks as quickly as this Sedov. In just a few years, he went from colonel to army general.
And
one of his deputies oversaw the seizure of Crimea in 2014. And I really like the detail that this was such a secret operation that specifically as a kind of conspiratorial cover, sorry, not conspiratorial, but rather a secretive hidden cover. They pretended that this person was, first of all, at work. His car would arrive, park at the building, and leave at the usual time. At work, his assistants, secretaries, and so on were present, and so forth. So that, God forbid, even the people who were there inside the system wouldn't suspect that he was not in Moscow, but somewhere else on some special assignment.
yes, this detail is very interesting. And it also confirms what I've been saying for many years about the Putin regime. The thing is, they have no secrets at all. Everything gets leaked and sold from the inside by everyone. Because all the databases that we now find on the internet used to be found on CDs before. At the Mitinsky market, for $10, you could buy any FSB database you wanted. Because it's clear that compared to the USSR, this is a completely corrupt organization involved in corruption, racketeering, and anything else you can imagine. But they also carry out these kinds of special operations. Plus, there's the detail that he calls Putin directly. That is, he doesn't go through Bortnikov, not through Korolyov. He picks up the phone himself. He has a Kremlin line and he calls Putin whenever he needs to. Or Putin can call him. This is the phone you mentioned, the OS phone. That's what we used to have as an operational connection. The tired officers had it, but in every office there is an OES device. And any operational matters strictly forbidden to discuss them over the city phone. It was absolutely not allowed. The most you could do over the city phone was arrange a meeting, nothing more. And as soon as you needed to discuss any operational topic, you had to call using the OES device. Operational connection. Using this device, he calls all his colleagues. There's a lot of evidence proving that this is a completely serious person from the inside. You can't just make this up because it's immediately obvious when a person knows this, when he knows where, in which office, in which corridor, how things are arranged inside, where things are set up with a lot of details. Of course, I'm telling you, this is one of the most interesting interviews I've ever read about the Russian special services.
And most importantly, there's still a detail we haven't mentioned at all yet. He specifically, we believe, to him. The journalists show him photos of people who were involved in the story of Navalny's poisoning. And he says, this one is definitely one of ours. I don't remember this one. This one we believe is ours because I often saw him in the elevator. I don't remember the last name, but the face looks very familiar. And of course, Navalny was killed by our people. Thank you. There is a wealth of information about how this second service operates against opposition members and even ordinary activists of anti-Putin protests.
Yes, and by the way, even the way this questioning is conducted, this is exactly how foreign intelligence services conduct their interrogations. When you fall into the hands of the security services, a person comes to you with an album containing 10,000 photographs. They show you the photos and ask if you know this person, if you know that one, and you have to mark crosses if you know someone, if you don't, and so on. Here are all the defectors who are working, and then, if you put a cross that you know someone, they will start pressing you. Where do you know them from? How do you know them? Where did you work together? And so on. And most importantly, the person doesn't puff themselves up. That is, he doesn't say, I know this guy, we drank beer together, and so on. In other words, he says he saw him, knows what he does, but only saw him in the elevator. This adds details that from the inside make it clear to me that the person is telling the truth. Because he doesn't puff himself up. He won't make things up just to impress the journalist, like saying, I know all of them, I know all their biographies, but I won't tell you. In other words, this is a person who gives a real picture. And this adds credibility to what he says. And he shares so many details that you simply couldn't make it up. In other words, a person who isn't an insider couldn't provide such details.
So friends, just type it into the search bar of any browser. Interview with Alexander Fedotov, FSB, and you'll easily find either the original interview or many reprints. Thank you. There are also summaries of the reprints in case, as they say, you're too lazy to read the whole thing. But I hope, and I join Sergey Zhirnov in saying this, that you definitely should read it.